Okay, so I was born on September 1st, 1994, in a really small town in Penang, Malaysia. One of my earliest memories as a kid was showering in our house. In our bathroom, there would be this big tub that my grandma would fill with water. And at the same time, she would also heat up a kettle to pour into the tub so that I was able to take a warm shower. We then used these small plastic buckets to scoop the water to give ourselves a bath. Though our lives weren't glamorous, I grew up a really happy kid. My family constantly showered me with love and support, and honestly, I truly didn't even realize how impoverished we were until I moved to America. So my aunt was the first one in my family to move to America. After she finished college in Illinois, she saved up enough money and she was able to move all of us out to California with her. Me, my parents, grandparents, and my uncle, we all immigrated to the States when I was 4 years old. Growing up in Milpitas, California was an absolute blessing. It was such a wonderfully diverse and welcoming community. One of my favorite memories through grade school was simply going over to my friend's house and experiencing how different their culture, traditions, and even food were compared to my own. It always fascinated me to see how different everyone lived, and this eventually fostered a love for traveling and actively seeking out to learn more about different ways of life. Before I learned how to speak English, a common ground for me to make friends was through basketball. When we moved to America, my parents and we bonded over watching the NBA and shooting hoops at the park. My dad was a huge Lakers fan, so growing up in the 2000s, that's the team we watched. I grew up the biggest Kobe fan. Ask any of my friends and they'll tell you. His tenacity and dedication to his craft ignited my own passion for the game. I ended up playing on a team throughout high school and still play as much as I can today. It ultimately is a sanctuary for me. Fun fact, I was actually also on my varsity football team in high school. Long story short, my best friend convinced me to try out with him, and the rest is history. My two siblings, Jason and Josephine, were born when I was in middle school, so we're about 10 years apart. Despite our age difference, we actually grew up pretty close. Spicy noodle challenge?
I can't feel my tongue.
The noodles? I have the noodles.
I have noodles too.
My siblings are awesome, and I absolutely love them to death. Though, now that they're older, it does get a little difficult trying to walk that fine line of being the cool big brother or the strict one. I'm terrible at drawing, so my girlfriend Mariah is going to help me out. After high school, I went to college at SF State University. I would describe the first couple years of my college life as wonderfully unsupervised. Living in the dorms and away from my parents for the first time resulted in a lot of carefree and reckless days. I didn't go to class as often as I should have and figured I was able to just learn the material on my own. And well, you guys know how that always turns out. I ended up failing a lot of my classes the first few semesters and my GPA completely tanked. It wasn't until I became interested in studying abroad that I started turning things around. I wanted to step outside my comfort zone and live in a country that had a completely different norm. Japan was at the top of that list. I'll never forget my first meeting with the study abroad advisor. He took one look at my transcript and said, "Yeah, you're not going to Japan with those grades." From that point on, I decided that no matter what, I am going to Japan, and that was my main goal. I got straight A's for the next 4 semesters and my GPA shot back up. I applied again and got accepted into the program. The power of setting goals. Fun fact, I also ended up getting my US citizenship during this whole process, but that's a story for another day. Studying abroad in Japan was one of the best experiences of my life. On the way to the Tokyo Giants game, my boys, they
you get that on film?
6 months in Japan flew by so quickly. One of the most important things I learned was to cherish the little things. Yes, the big moments will be extraordinary, but things we often overlook and take for granted are the things we tend to miss the most at the end. The early morning walks to school, dinners with friends, or even just hanging out in my dorm room. Those are the memories I truly miss the most. Last year in 2019, I quit my job. It was an easy job with pretty great perks, but I felt like I was getting too comfortable and I just felt stagnant. For the next 2 months after, I was in a sort of limbo, interviewing with a bunch of different companies, trying to really figure out what I wanted to do with my career. This time, I really wanted to explore my options, even if it meant turning down multiple opportunities and going after something I may not even get. I ended up shooting my shot at Facebook with no previous experience in the recruiting or coordination field. To be completely honest, I was scared, nervous, and extremely uncomfortable. Should I have just settled and went with the initial opportunities? Should I have just applied for jobs within my field? What happens if I get rejected and I'm back at square one? I had a bunch of these thoughts constantly in my head during this whole process. But by seeking discomfort, I landed a job at one of my dream companies. Which leads me here. Surrounded by so many talented people that I am inspired daily to be the best version of myself. I've never been with a company or team that is so inclusive and collaborative, and I'm just so grateful to be on this journey with you guys. Thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to let you guys know that this is me.